This week's episode of the Skeptic Zone Podcast is dedicated to the memory of Esther Trenalden, a strong advocate of reason in Sydney and of vaccination and of the science underpinning it.
Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone Podcast, episode number 574 for the 13th of October, 2019. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Coming up on this week's show, the Skeptic Zone on the road. We go to the offices of Choice magazine, the consumer advocate. Choice and the Australian Skeptics have had a long and interesting relationship over the years, sort of cross-pollination, I guess you could say, in a sort of a way. Choice magazine is sort of like the Skeptics in they look out for dodgy and shonky and wonky products, consumer products, and they publish a magazine called Choice. And every year they award the Shonkys Awards, which is kind of sort of like the Australian Skeptics Bent Spoon Award, coming up actually in December. Anyway, we head to the Choice magazine presentation and find out more about this year's shonky and dodgy products that you should avoid. After that, it's Trish and Chips with Trish Hann, where Maynard interviews Trish about the latest developments in stroke treatment. A bit of science injected into the Skeptic Zone. Then another update from Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. Just a quick update to see what's happening there. And to round off the show, I chat to Dr Fiona Fidler from the University of Melbourne, who scientifically investigates science. And she'll be talking at Skepticon 2019 in December. Actually, there's not too much for me to say here at the introduction to the show this week. So yes, it's time for me to run downstairs. Where are those cats? Oh, hey. Oh, she's gone. See, the trouble is I'm recording this in the morning and they're sitting in here waiting for me to get up, run downstairs and give them some food. Okay, well, I run downstairs and give the cats their food, their breakfast. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Thursday, the 10th of October 2019, saw the awarding of the annual Shonkys Awards by Choice magazine in Sydney. Choice magazine and the Australian Skeptics have had a long and happy association. In 2010, Choice magazine awarded a Shonky to the Power Balance wristband, a product the Australian Skeptics had debunked in 2009. The press release reads as follows. Consumer advocate Choice has announced its 14th annual Shonkys, singling out Shonky fridges, food and finance products for its yearly dishonour. Choice's job is to stand up against companies doing the wrong thing. The Shonkys draw upon our unique testing, reviews and advocacy to help you identify the worst of the worst. In a time of fake reviews, cash for comment, salespeople and lobbyists everywhere, it's more important than ever that independent voices tell the truth, says Choice CEO Alan Kirkland. The 2019 Shonkys are Kogan for dodgy customer care, Medibank Basic Cover Health Insurance for failing the basics, IKEA Nedkilled Fridge for failing energy tests and being bad at doing its one job, AMP Superannuation for ruined retirements, Freedom Food XO Crunch for telling us a bag of sugar is healthy, and pet insurance, bad insurance riddled with exclusions. Tim Mendham and I went along to the Shonky ceremony and spoke to some of the choice representatives about dodgy products. We're in one of the testing labs here at Choice Magazine, and they're having a test of the Freedom Foods XO Crunch. It's Chris Barnes from Choice. Is it XO Crunch?
XO Crunch, yes. Basically, you can see what's in front of you. You can see the cereal, and you can see a massive sugar. And to be quite honest, there's not a lot of difference between the two. So
that's right. We've got the display here. We've got the bowl of cereal ready to go, looking very crunchy, and a huge bowl of sugar. And we've got lots of kids here willing to test the product. Is that right? Okay. And the idea is, of course, that this thing is mostly sugar, isn't it? Well, not mostly sugar. Who do we have here?
Hi, my name's Linda. I'm the food policy expert at Choice, and today we're awarding a Shonky to Freedom Foods, which positions itself as a nutritious, healthy kids' food, but is actually 22% added sugar.
That's a lot, and as the display there shows, but the packaging is very kid-friendly, isn't it? There's a little owl, and it looks very appealing, and freedom food. I mean, how could you go wrong?
Absolutely, and all of the autumnal colours are very inviting. And we've got a lot of claims on the front, like a fun and nutritious snack, eat well today, feel better tomorrow. There's a lot of information that kind of could lead you to believe that it's a really nutritious food, but unfortunately it is quite a sugary cereal, and we think that that's pretty misleading.
Also, it just caught my eye here, right on the top of the package, we've got things that would appeal to a certain percentage of the market there: gluten-free, wheat-free and nut-free.
Look, those claims do need to be on the pack for people with allergies and intolerances. I think that while that's really, really relevant, the sugary product should not be positioned at the health food section of the supermarket. So a lot of the time you do find your gluten-free, your wheat-free, your nut-free products in the health food section. But it's easy to confuse a product that is free from those allergens with a product that is sugary and free from those allergens.
Right,
so we just want to make sure that there's no confusion there for consumers.
And of course it says there, source of fibre with the goodness of 3 grains. So it's all positive, and this is really great for the kids in the morning.
That's right. Well, it sounds too good to be true, and it is. So it says good for you, no preservatives, low salt, low fat.
It's got everything. Even
it says no nasties,
no GMO. I mean, they're really going on every bandwagon they could possibly get on this packaging.
That's right. The only thing that they're not advertising is their high sugar content.
Right.
Just recently, so.
Just back with Chris Barnes again. You were just saying that in the last little while, there's nothing like the good old power balance or magical claims come across the desk of Choice. That's
right. I mean, look, there's always garbage like that out there, as you well know, and we've looked at the power balance before, the Geo Cleanse. They're sort of magic devices that claim to, fix you or fix your house or fix your power consumption or whatever. We haven't put a particular spotlight on anything like that just recently, but they're always out there,
Yeah.
I'm sure your audience knows full well to look out for them and likes to point at them and have a laugh. But unfortunately, there are people out there who believe them and buy them, and they're such rip-offs.
They absolutely are. In fact, you might be interested to know that just in the last week, we've added to our Bent Spoon nominations for this year Aldi supermarkets for selling ear candles.
Oh yes. This just popped up on my radar just in the last couple of days that they had ear candles in there, and it's disappointing, isn't it?
It's disappointing.
I mean, Aldi's. Not to plug them over anyone else, but they're a good supermarket. And they provide a really valuable service with low price products and all the rest of it. And lots of people shop there, and you kind of expect that a company like that is going to have the sense to stay away from from nonsense like ear candles. There they are.
Would something like a brand of ear candles fall within Choice purview, or is that a bit on the edges?
We wouldn't look at a particular brand. We'd look at ear candles as a whole if we saw that there was particular activity in the market. Maybe someone was pushing something really hard, or you were seeing celebrity endorsements, putting a spotlight on particular products. Then you might come to it. And the products like that are always out there, unfortunately, and we have to spend our energy where it's best spent. Not always in that sort of area, unfortunately.
No, I agree. But one of the things that's concerned us for a while, I mean, it's bad enough to see them in Aldi, but for years now they've been available in pharmacies.
Well, exactly, and you go to a pharmacy for medicine, after all, and let's be honest, my dad was a pharmacist, so I know full well how pharmacists operate. They're always full of, chocolate stands and perfumes and all the rest of it, and that's one of the ways that they make a living, and that's fair enough. But you expect there to be, from medicinal and medical and pharmacological products, you expect them to be all above the board and documented and proven and medically valid. So to go to the same place where you're buying serious medications and find the ear candles and things on the shelf as well, naturally people are going to put trust in that.
I don't know if you've caught up with the fact that one of our sister organisations in the States is suing Walmart, I think it is, amongst others, for selling homeopathy, because homeopathy is such a blatant rip-off and something that blatantly doesn't work. It's an interesting tactic.
I know, and again, you go into pharmacies and see homeopathic products as well. I've fallen for it myself. I bought a product that I thought was the real deal, an arnica cream, took it home, read the label carefully and realised it was a homeopathic arnica cream, and in other words, it had almost zero arnica actually in it, which was a bit disappointing, I have to say. So, even someone like me who usually reads the labels can fall for it. But there'll be people out there who'll pick it up, look, homeopathy, great. That's supposed to be wonderful. I'll get that. Because again, you're buying it in a pharmacy. You think that it's the real deal.
Well, that's the problem. Of course, the average punter in the street is going to think what they buy in a pharmacy is the real deal.
Yeah.
Well, we're still on the same page. I think the Skeptics and and Choice magazine. Thank you for helping us out today, having a look around. And I think Tim Mendham and I will pop around and see a few more of these wonderful displays.
No worries.
We're in another section now, and we have a gaping fridge in front of us, and there's a problem with this fridge, and this concerns us because it's to do with energy. It's consuming more energy than it should.
It is indeed consuming more energy than it is allowed to, than it has claimed, and that it is allowed to.
Than it is allowed to?
Well, from what they claim, there is a little bit of variation allowed, but there's a limit on how much that variation can be. So it can only be up to 7.5% more than they have claimed, and this is well over 8%.
Right. Well, if enough people had these fridges, it's just burning up energy that and this day and age, we simply don't need extra energy being burned up for no reason.
That's correct.
And that's why it won the Shonky, I guess.
That and the fact that it is really a bad fridge.
Well, let's have a close look now. I'm just walking over to the fridge now, and there's the freezer section. Oh, there's some pizzas inside. It looks like a fridge, from just outward appearances, but outward appearances can be deceiving.
They certainly can be, and that's one thing that's very important with the fridge, is that it does a good job of keeping your food fresh. Now, we've found with this fridge it performs so badly that not only are you going to be paying through the nose for the extra energy, you're also going to be paying extra for replacing all the spoiled food in it.
Oh!
And that's an ongoing cost for the life of the appliance.
That's interesting. Is it the seals, or have you discovered exactly what's going on?
It just performs really badly.
Right.
It's not the seals, it's more about the large temperature fluctuations, particularly in the freezer, and poor response to changes in outside ambient temperature.
Oh, well, folks, I like going to IKEA myself every now and then, but I think I'll steer clear of this particular fridge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Have you tested the meatballs?
That would be the Fruit Lab at some.
Health insurance, Medibank. We're in the room now to discuss the health insurance. This is a big issue for us, Tim Mendham from the Australian Skeptics, because we did a story not long ago. You did a story about some of the quackery that health companies cover.
We're sort of supporting, actually, way back. This was before the government action, or is it inaction at the moment, that to restrict what the health funds can support. But we found actually a major investigation a number of years ago that there was only one health fund that was not supporting woo, sort of unproven alternative medicine, and that was the Doctors' Health Fund, surprisingly. But I mean, so therefore seeing this sort of thing is a worry when the actual product is not very good, and the question is, this was about what they were supporting, but this is a different issue, isn't it?
So who do we have here?
My name's Jody.
Jody and
Dean.
And the story is that this Medibank, this particular coverage they're offering really isn't worth a cracker, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. It's quite a basic level of cover and it won't give you much more than what you get from the public system.
That's just frightening, because I remember 10, 12 years ago we were all heavily encouraged to take up private insurance, and the deadline is coming and you must take it up. And now the news is that people are leaving it in droves.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people are leaving it because it becomes more expensive every year.
Yeah. And what was one of the main problems with this particular coverage?
So this covers very little. The list of exclusions is probably as long as my arm. And it's also quite expensive. When this is a basic level of cover, there are actually cheaper policies available which are at the bronze level, which covers a lot more. So not only does it cover very little, it also costs a lot out there.
Right, and I think some other people are finding if they just save their money in a separate account for medical reasons, they can often do better than that.
We've always got our eye, and we've always had a problem with what we call the junk insurance policies, which is what this policy is, because essentially it doesn't provide any more cover than the public system. So.
Yeah. That's one thing for our international listeners. There is quite a decent coverage of health in this country. Public health, you can front up to a doctor and they hopefully fix you up without it breaking the bank. And so this thing here is basically a rip-off, to use that old term.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. And we've come outside, and there are dogs everywhere, folks, and they're looking quite healthy to me, but not all dogs are always healthy. Who do we have here?
It's Patrick Vray from Choice.
And what's the point of all these dogs nipping at our heels?
Yeah, we've got dogs outside the Choice offices today because today we awarded the entire pet insurance industry a Shonkys Award. Pet insurance products are terribly poor value, and we've reviewed 86 policies and can't recommend a single one.
Wow, that's something. For the listeners know, we've got a couple of Skeptic Zone cats in the Skeptic Zone studio, and I've crossed my mind to get insurance for them because things happen. But you're saying that it's really a waste of money.
Absolutely. We can't recommend a single product. What we recommend to people actually is to have a pool of their own money and use that as an insurance product, and rather than going through dodgy insurance providers. There's a number of problems that we've found. A lot of them is the complex PDS, product disclosure statements, with terms that are really unfair across the board.
That's too bad. I mean, because pet lovers love their pets. And hello, here's one. And what do you think of the insurance? Hello.
Turn his backside here.
Oh yeah. Jason. And that's a healthy dog. Pet lovers love their pets. And of course, they will do anything. They'll spend lots of money if they think to help their pets. They'll fork out for insurance.
Right, and the insurance companies really prey on that emotional vulnerability and Australians' love for pets. And that's really how they work in terms of their marketing. But in actual fact, they're just terribly poor value. One such example which is very problematic, is that for most pet insurance contracts, if your pet contracts an illness for which a vaccine exists, even though they're vaccinated, they're not protected, which seems particularly perverse.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's very strange. And there's other examples where if your pet has a pre-existing condition, you can't then look across and find another pet insurance contract. You're locked into that contract. It's very onerous.
Wow, this whole thing, Tim Mendham, seems a bit rough to me.
Rough, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the doggies.
Yes, and the paper's flying.
And the paper's flying. And we've got a sausage dog over there. We've got a couple of... Oh, hello. Are you a healthy dog?
This one, yes.
Hello.
Fortunately healthy.
For more information about Choice Magazine and the Shonkys Awards, head to www.choice.com.au.
Dr. Harriet Hall, MD, known to thousands as the Skepdoc, a retired family physician and former Air Force flight surgeon. She writes about medicine, so-called complementary and alternative medicine, science, quackery, and critical thinking. Harriet now has a free course, a series of 10 video lectures on science-based medicine and alternative medicine. The videos and an accompanying course guide can be found by following the link at skepdoc.info or by visiting web.randy.org/educational-modules.html. Topics covered in the series are science-based medicine versus evidence-based medicine, what is CAM, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy and herbal medicine, energy medicine, miscellaneous alternatives, pitfalls in research, and science-based medicine in the media and politics. Harriet covers each topic in a matter-of-fact, no-nonsense way that's sure to educate and entertain. Skepdoc.info.
Let's have some Trish and Chips. Here's Trish Hann.
Well, here at Skeptics in the pub tonight, we're on to a big one tonight. It's all about stroke. Now, not something I know about, but is it the third biggest killer, Trish, you're talking about or not? Where stroke sit on the cancer, heart attack, accident thing of killing people?
Yeah, so it kills more women than breast cancer and more men than prostate cancer. It's pretty high.
And is there any one single cause? Is there anything we're doing that makes us have a stroke? Is there any one thing that is usually the big risk factor?
There's multiple risk factors, obviously. Things like immobility, because obviously DVTs can make their way, they often make their way to the lung, but they can obviously go up to the brain as well. There are a few other risk factors as well, like if you've got certain cardiac conditions, in fact one of the ones that I personally have as well. So if your heart is not pumping the way it should, then you can get these blood clots that form in the heart and then whack straight up to the brain. There are also conditions such as having a hole in the heart. That can increase risk as well, and then just other lifestyle factors as well.
Well, I was always told smoking is a huge one for stroke. Now, why is that? What does it do that, like alcohol or other stuff, doesn't do? Why is stroking a big one?
Stroking.
Why is smoking lead to stroking?
Well, see, smoking is just generally very, very bad for you, like in general, isn't it? It's one of these risk factors, I think, which contributes to many other contributing causes.
Yeah, because if you're smoking up a storm, you probably aren't going to the gym very often.
Exactly. So I think it's one of those things as well. The whole thing about people who go to the gym are obviously generally healthier. Well, that's probably because not because they're going to the gym, but because they're more inclined to go to the gym. There's a whole load of contributing factors. There's never just one thing where you tick that box. Like things like cancer, for example, being alive is a risk factor for having cancer. And also being alive is a risk factor for having a stroke, unfortunately.
And you're going to talk about some of the new innovations in the treatment of stroke. What have you got on tonight? Yeah.
Well, so I'm very lucky to be involved with an absolutely amazing team who treat ischemic stroke using interventional radiology, which is my bag. They really do incredible work, and it is innovative in the sense of it's only been around less than a decade, the method I'll be talking about tonight, which is endovascular clot retrieval. Only been around for maybe about a decade, and it's only really the last 3 or 4 years it's been actually widely available.
Wow. Look, and a special shout-out to Pete Porker, the lead singer of the great Newcastle-based band The Porkers, because on his first date with his current girl, Rhonda, he had a stroke on the first date while their first time in bed together, and she went, hey, you've got to get to the hospital. And if she hadn't done that, he might have just continued on his own, yeah.
I hear so many stories like that. There was one that I'll talk about tonight of a patient who was out with a nurse having lunch, and the nurse noticed that the side of her face had started to go droopy, and she instantly called 000. Instantly. She recognised those signs straight away, with the face just going, and her friend started slurring, and she was like, well, she's not drunk.
But you wouldn't have much, your time's in minutes, isn't it, but?
Well, no, actually, and that's one thing I'll be talking about tonight. So she was very lucky. She was within 5 kilometres of RPA. So the ambulance got there super quick. She had everything was on her side. But yeah, you do often get cases, out in the bush, for example. But one of the things I'll be talking about tonight is actually the fact that they have increased the bracket, the time window. So it used to be this particular treatment was only available within 6 hours. And now oftentimes, obviously, people will have a stroke in their sleep.
Yes, yeah.
So if you have a stroke, say at 10 p.m, and then you wake up or your partner wakes up at 7, well, that's 9 hours of having a stroke. So often they call that like a wake up stroke. So it's someone who's woken up and it turns out they've had a stroke. Often what can happen as well is you might have a stroke and you live alone. And if you live out in Wagga, you don't have much on your doorstep that can help you. So we often get patients coming from a really long way away. I spend a lot of my time watching the flight tracker app on my phone to see how much time I've got can I fit in another episode of Stranger Things before this one arrives.
And is it, usually I imagine it's stuff like blood thinners is a first line thing, but there's much more nuanced treatments now, aren't there?
Absolutely. So yeah, clot busting drugs, so thrombolysis is kind of the common thing that they inject, but obviously they just inject it into your bloodstream and hope that it finds its way to the clot. But now we actually do mechanical removal. So we actually go up into the brain, find the clot, get rid of it.
Wow. This is similar to when you have the stent into the heart and they have a look around there, except they're going up into the brain. But how long does it take to get up there?
Minutes.
Really?
Yeah. The record that I've seen, and it was brilliant.
Not that it's a race.
No. Well, actually it is. It's a race against biology. So one of the records that I've seen was about 18 minutes from start to finish, and that's from the patient getting onto a table to actually having full reperfusion of their brain.
Wow. And you just normally have a Valium drip going on you when you're like that, or what do you do? Is the patient sedated at all? Because that would just freak me out on its own. That would cause me to have a stroke by the fact they were trying to... Yeah.
So we take into account multiple risk factors. So if the patient's likely to move throughout the examination because they're just confused and they have no idea what's going on, then we will anaesthetise them because it's for the best. But we have done them fully awake. We do them fully awake, and that's pretty amazing because you actually get to see their recovery instantly. Honestly, there's nothing quite like, you get the patient coming in and being wheeled on an ambulance trolley, and they are completely what we call hemiplegic, so they cannot move one side of their body. And they'll often be like struggling and fighting with the other side. So they're actually moving, but there's like a line drawn down the middle and they're not moving that side. We do the clot retrieval sometimes in like less than half an hour, and then they start moving and they're not even realising it, and they'll do something little like reach up and scratch their nose, and you're just like, that's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, do you think you can ever see a day where instead of actually have to physically intervene up near the artery, you'll be able to do it like microwave through the head or something like so you'll be able to do it from outside and be able to manipulate the inside from a short distance?
I can't see that not causing problems personally.
Right, okay. Because I thought, like with radiation, you can zap stuff. I thought maybe you could do some zapping of the clot.
But obviously there are associated risks with radiation, so risk versus benefit is the main thing, and at the moment the risk of like intervening and doing an endovascular clot retrieval is nothing compared to the risks of, say, frying someone's brain.
So the Maynard microwave way is that's a few years off yet.
File the patent now because you never know.
Well, I'm just thinking, Dr. McCoy has a salt and pepper shaker, he moves over someone's head. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen, so a magnetic way of doing it, you see. That wouldn't hurt as much.
Well, you never know.
Well, that is pretty amazing. Look, good luck with it there. And what questions? I think you might get some high-level questions like, I'm not sure that antigen's correct.
I really hope not, because I'm post-night shift and I'm a little bit delirious, but we'll see what happens.
This is your socialised medicine system at work, people. You've been on work for 3 days, I believe. She can't even remember what hospital she's been in.
No, I finished at 8 o'clock this morning, that's all I know.
And the question we are asking people, Trish, is should the skeptics intervene in someone who claims they're a psychic healer? The New Zealand skeptics are getting all uppity with the woman who's coming in there and is going to claim she's going to psychically heal people. Is it the skeptics' place to ring up venues and go, oh, come on, that's a bit fraudy, should you be doing that? Is it, or should they just butt out?
As someone who has done exactly that and has protested outside of venues, well, I have an opinion. Yeah, I do actually think that's the case, because if someone was there trying to scam people in other ways, you know, like trying to set up a pyramid scheme or something at a big venue, I guarantee they'd get shut down by local trading standards. So I do feel like with psychics, they've got a bit of a free pass that we should be trying to revoke.
Of course, as I've been mentioning, this one, she's got the new angle where she's not actually healing the people. She contacts psychic surgeons on the other side who heal the person. That's a good... I mean, look, even the amazing Randy hadn't thought of that one. That's a new one.
That's pretty special. Yeah, you've got to give her a juice for innovative new methods of scamming people.
So I wonder if she has psychic lawyers on the other side. So if you want to get a good divorce settlement or something, or sue someone who ran into your car...
I just want to know if these dead doctors are ARPA registered, because, you know, I feel like we should be able to put complaints about them.
That's right. And if they're dead, how long ago did they die? Have they been keeping up to their, you know, have they been up their best practices, you know?
Maybe they're still like trepanning and stuff like that, you know?
Oh, yeah. And, of course, is there psychic malpractice insurance?
Bloody well should be.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, look, we know where you sit on that one. Thanks, Trish, and good luck with your talk.
Thank you.
I'm Mick West. In my podcast, Tales from the Rabbit Hole, I have extended conversations with people who have been involved in conspiracy culture. I do this for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it's really interesting. These people have great stories about how they fell down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, what they did down there, and what it was that helped them out. Sometimes I also talk to people who investigate conspiracy theories, and they have equally fascinating stories from the other side. Secondly, I want to understand how best to prevent the spread of conspiracy theories and misinformation, which is an increasing problem in a time when alternative media is exploding. The best way to do this is to communicate effectively with the people involved, and the best way to do that is with a nice long chat. So check it out, Tales from the Rabbit Hole, tftrh.com.
I think we need to think. Here's Susan Gerbic.
Hello everyone, this is Susan Gerbic from the Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia project. We have just written the Wikipedia pages for several up-and-coming psychics, and one naturopath, one anti-vaxxer, a cryptozoologist, and two men who say they've been abducted by UFOs. A few quack cancer clinics have nicely written Wikipedia pages because of our Wikipedia editing team. As I sit here and think about it, we've written all kinds of pages for what might be considered the other side. One we wrote years ago was for a child in a coma whose mother claimed that the child had the power to heal. Mom turned her bedroom into a shrine with glass windows all around it, so the believers could walk past the room and stare in. At the end of the tour, the believers could purchase blessed oils and cotton swabs with the child's sweat on it. That scam went on for years until the child died. So why do we do it? I mean, we spend hours working on these Wikipedia pages to get them just right. We want them to be readable, enjoyable even, with lots of citations people can follow if they want more information. So why support the notoriety of scammers and fakes? Well, this was something that I had to struggle with at the beginning of our Wikipedia project. Was our time spent better working on Wikipedia pages for people within our community? Well, I guess over time it became clear. Once a person reaches the tipping point of notability that allows someone to write a Wikipedia page, then it's best if someone from the scientific skepticism community does it. We don't want slanderous, gossipy, nasty Wikipedia pages. We treat the pages the same way we would if we were someone from within our science community. We remain as neutral as we can be, allowing the citations we find to tell the story. And those citations are not from tabloids, blogs, or websites, but from serious news agencies. And that's the rules of Wikipedia, so we have to abide by them. We're going to seek out quality science articles written by other notable people who are experts in the field. We aren't going to write a Wikipedia page for anyone that would look like fluff. We know that Wikipedia is one of the first links a curious person might find in an internet search, and they are more likely to venture there first before checking out a website that might appear to be biased one way or the other. They know that the Wikipedia page will not have pop-ups, malware, or have advertisements, so it's a safe place to go to first. If there is no Wikipedia page, then the only other place a curious person might find is that person's website or social media accounts. And we know what that's going to be, one-sided. So GSOW is going to continue writing Wikipedia pages for people who practice pseudoscience, as well as all the other pages we write that are for the pro-science people in our community. It's quite a task, and we are only a little over 100 editors after all, and we're all volunteers with busy lives, but we managed to create 1,158 Wikipedia pages as I record this, and those 1,158 pages have been viewed just over 49 million times. Imagine that. If those pages didn't exist, then what would they find when they searched? If you'd like to become one of our GSOW editors, please send me a private message on Facebook. Training takes about 4 months, and it does happen on Google Documents and a secret cabal on Facebook. If you have questions, you can find answers on our website, gsowteam.org. Thank you.
The Earth is only 6,000 years old. That's what Answers in Genesis and the Creation Museum say, and how can a museum be wrong?
Isn't Dr. Oz just wonderful? I loved today's episode. It didn't talk down to his adoring audience of women at all.
Science has proved that the subatomic quantum realm is as real as it is counterintuitive and bizarre. Therefore, I can use it to support quantum healing and quantum consciousness. After all, how can journals like Aquarius Metaphysics be wrong?
Evolution is just a theory. After all, if we came from monkeys, then why are there still monkeys?
We all have friends and family who believe these things and much more. Well, if you're a rational thinker who is tired of arguing on social media and never getting anywhere, we have a solution for you.
Join the Guerrilla Skepticism and Wikipedia team, and we will teach you how to add reliable scientific and skeptical information to the world's #1 source of information, Wikipedia.
We write new articles and improve existing ones. We remove pseudoscience, paranormal, and alt-med claims, substituting the actual facts. And we operate in many languages.
We've already reached tens of millions of people searching for information, but as you can imagine, we can never do enough.
So please, join us. All you need is a PC and the desire to help educate the planet. In fact, you'll be educating the world while you sleep.
Contact us at gsowteam@gmail.com.
Guerrilla Skepticism. The time is now.
Music by purpleplanet.com.
And joining me now, all the way from the University of Melbourne, it's Associate Professor Fiona Fidler. Hello, Fiona.
Hello, Richard.
Great to catch up with you. I'm very interested because you are appearing at Skepticon 2019 in Melbourne in December. And what an interesting topic or topics you're going to be covering. First of all, you have a PhD in history and philosophy of science. What does that entail exactly?
History and philosophy of science studies science in its social, historical context. So we ask questions about what makes science different to other ways of knowing. We look at important episodes in the history of science and see what we can learn from them. We look at social, political and cultural influences of science. The work that I myself do looks at methodological change within science. So we know a lot about how science changes its theories, how when there's a switch from one sort of theoretical paradigm to another, but methods change seems to be different. So when do scientists decide to stop doing experiments a particular way or stop using a particular type of statistical analysis and adopt new methods?
Oh.
That's the work that I'm in.
So it's in a way, it's the scientific investigation of science, you could say.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating. And I note just reading the information at the University of Melbourne that you are very interested in something that we hear a lot on skeptical conversations. We hear about the null hypothesis. Now, for a general overview, what is the null hypothesis and why would you be investigating that?
The null hypothesis significance testing is the full title of the statistical procedure that scientists use. This is used across virtually all of the social sciences, life sciences, medicine, less so in physics, but in many sciences it is the overwhelmingly dominant statistical method. It starts by testing, in typical practice, it starts by testing a hypothesis that there is no difference. And from the outset, that's a bit of a fudge, really. We wouldn't normally be doing an experiment or a study if we didn't think there was some difference between these two groups, or that this drug was going to have some influence on whatever disease we're using it for. So testing a null hypothesis is a bit of a straw man in many cases. But that's the starting point, is that you assume that there is no difference between the boys and girls or the treatment and control group, and look for deviations from that. It's a practice that's been heavily criticised now in virtually all sciences for 6 or 7 decades. These criticisms go back to the 1940s, but pretty much from its first use in applied science. And yet, in most cases, scientists have been very reluctant to give up the practice of using null hypothesis significance testing. And my PhD dissertation investigated a question of why there has been so much resistance to abandoning that method.
That's very interesting, because I didn't know there was a controversy at all. It's just one of these things you hear, and I don't have a degree in science myself, so I guess like the average person on the street, I would have heard this term every now and then, just assumed it was a vital part of scientific testing and rigor.
Well, there is, of course, some debate. There are certainly some uses of the test that might be appropriate, but there are many, many more that are inappropriate. And I think at this point there have been, when I finished my PhD thesis in 2006, there had at that point been nearly 2,000 criticisms of null hypothesis testing published.
Wow, good grief. Well, that's science for you, of course. I mean, the whole idea, and I hope the whole idea of science is continual revision and improvement. And if that is the case with the null hypothesis, gee, that could lead you down all sorts of interesting rabbit holes. Another thing I found interesting was that you are looking into something, and this is something I don't know much about, called p-hacking. P-hacking. No, it's not shelling peas to find the best one. What is p-hacking exactly?
Well, a p-value is the output of null hypothesis significance testing. I should say that there are many ways one can use a p-value, but the dominant way associated with null hypothesis testing is to set a cutoff, a threshold, usually p of 0.05, where we say that we're willing to tolerate a 5% false positive error rate, and when something falls below that threshold of 0.05, we will call the result statistically significant, and when it doesn't, we call it statistically non-significant. So that's sort of the most common way that p-values are used, and it means that this 0.05 has become a threshold that gets used to decide which studies get published or which results are regarded as important. And because of the sort of gatekeeping significance that number holds, people will do all kinds of things to ensure that their result does get over that threshold.
Ah, that's interesting. So that's where the word hacking comes in.
Yeah, so there are many ways that scientists can engage in p-hacking. They can trim a couple of outliers from their results, for example, or they can transform a particular variable that they might not have otherwise transformed. They can engage in some over-enthusiastic rounding of decimal places to ensure that they get there.
I guess this comes back to the amazing fact that scientists are also human, and they're likely to do very human things from time to time.
Yeah, and if there is a lot of pressure to publish every study that you do, and if there is publication bias focused on these arbitrary thresholds, if the incentives are set up in ways that encourage or almost force scientists into these practices, then they will do what they need to do to keep their jobs and get their next grant, keep their research lights on.
Yeah. Again, it's a very, very human thing to do, and this is one of the things that makes science so interesting. I think it's a great ideal, and but it's conducted by us poor fallible humans. Now, Fiona, what can people look forward to when they come to Skepticon 2019 to see your presentation?
Okay, at Skepticon, I'm going to be talking about a new project that my research group and I are engaged in called the Replicats Project, where the CATS part of that stands for Collaborative Assessments of Trustworthy Science. Mm-hmm. And it's a project that it's a crowdsourced project in a sense, where we're asking researchers from any relevant social science discipline. I'll tell you what those are at Skepticon, to become involved in helping us predict which studies in the published literature would be likely to replicate should those experiments or studies be repeated. Uh-huh. So in 2011, that's the date that's widely recognised as the start of this new episode in science called the replication crisis. It began really when large collaborations of researchers around the world started engaging in replications of studies in the published literature. So redoing 50 experiments in cancer biology or redoing 100 studies published in social psychology. There have now been replication studies in a range of different disciplines, medicine and psychology, economics, even experimental philosophy. And across, although the replication rates vary, on the whole, the results have been somewhat disappointing. We might not have expected every single study in the published scientific literature to replicate perfectly, but we certainly would have expected the rates to be higher than about 40 or 50%, which is where they seem to be falling. A lot of scientists, since over the last 7 or 8 years, have been engaged in activities to improve the replication rate in science, but redoing all of these studies is obviously very time-consuming, takes a lot of resources, a lot of money. And so now we're at a point where we're looking for other ways of detecting studies that are likely to fail to replicate, and that's what the Replicats project is about. So we're looking at whether scientists in those areas, researchers in those areas, can predict which studies are likely to replicate or not. And for those who can, we're looking at what reasoning they're using to do that, what cues and heuristics they're relying on. So that's the huge crowdsourced project that I'll be talking about at Skepticon.
Wow, that sounds absolutely fascinating for somebody like me who skates along merrily on the surface of science, on thin ice sometimes. I don't often get to hear about the inner workings and the vital work like that. Well, folks, there is another clue, another hint for you, and another motivation to attend Skepticon in Melbourne later on this year. Well, Professor Fiona Fidler, thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you in Melbourne.
Thanks. I look forward to it too.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. On next week's show, we're bringing you part 1 of a continuing series of readings by Tim Mendham, the editor of The Skeptic and the executive officer of Australian Skeptics, And next week, Tim will be starting off with an article about free speech. Free speech, which is a pretty important issue worldwide, I think. Also on next week's show, we hope to bring you a report. Oh, yes, once again, it's come up, Mind, Body, Wallet, here in Sydney. Always an adventure. Of course, what I mean is Mind, Body, Spirit, the festival of, where you can see no end of woo and wonder, and some, talking about Shonky products, some pretty interesting things on display. Now, it's only occurred to me in the last little while, in fact, since the Skeptoid 13th birthday about a week ago, that the Skeptic Zone is actually 11 years old. In fact, it turned 11 at the end of last month. So using Skeptoid as an example, I hope and I ask and I request that everybody who has enjoyed the Skeptic Zone for the past 11 years might consider chipping in $11. $11 in your particular currency, or £11, 11 Australian dollars, 11 Canadian dollars, 11 US dollars, 11 ruples, 11 yen, whatever. Which maybe you can do the conversion and find something that's roughly equivalent to $11 Australian. So if you don't regularly contribute with Patreon or PayPal, head to the skepticzone.tv website, skepticzone.tv, and click the link and you can discover how to chip in. Or if you just want to do it straight using PayPal, you can use Saunders TV at yahoo.com.au. That's the address used for the Skeptic Zone for PayPal. 11 years bringing you weekly science and reason and fun, nonsense and investigations, reports, interviews. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone Podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone Podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone Podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.